what we're going to give you through the course of these months is going to be something so complete, so simple and so sophisticated that it really, really works. And the nature of it, which you're going to come to know, it works pretty much for everything, all the time, when we use it. So then we come to the focus of this day, because you know what happens, and you know I've been doing this in some form for 15 years now, David, you know, approximately the same kind of period, I guess. And the difference between those who make consistent, meaningful changes and those that don't is those that actually do apply what they know they need to do, and those that don't apply what they know they need to do. And the cycle is usually some form of looking for that next new thing rather than do the thing that we already know and that works. And there's lots of reasons for that, which we'll go into. I do like the metaphor. It's such a good metaphor that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's so perfect. It's so perfect, because the thing is, hence you're laughing, because we immediately go, oh yeah, I'm that horse, you know. And this is the great thing about these kind of metaphors, you know, because you just don't need to unpack them. However, I'm going to. Because when you've done the work for as long as we have, you encounter that spirit animal of the horse that you can't make drink the water constantly, in everybody and in ourselves, right? The thing is, you don't need to make the horse drink the water, because the horse will drink the water, because the horse is thirsty. You don't need to convince the horse to drink the water. The horse knows what the water's for. The water's to quench this thirst. Body has the thirst because it needs the water. The horse doesn't think about it, so they have an advantage over us when it comes to this kind of thing. Just do it because that is in their nature to do. The meaning of the water is implicit within the feeling of thirst. The water is life. The thirst is quenched by that water. For us, the reason we're not drinking the water is because we're not deeply connected enough to the meaningfulness of that water. The thing we need to do, the thing that is life for us. What the normal experience is some form of so here's the water. Okay. And you do understand that I can't drink that for you. Yeah. So you're going to have to do that bit. So I'm going to leave now. Okay. And you're going to drink that water. Huh? Even after I'm gone and I'm not watching, when you're thirsty, you're going to drink that. Yes. We all become like a cat that's just, when you run out of whiskers and you've had to go to Aldi's and you've given them that. Very normal experience, so normal it happens all of the time for everybody to varying degrees. So why is that happening? Well, the reason that's happening is because we're not deeply connected enough to that thing, the meaningfulness within. The horse is, this is life. I get thirsty, I drink life. We are not. And it's very normal that it's when people when we are at our thirstiest is when we're most likely not to drink. Because I'm not sure I've ever experienced it with anybody really, that there hasn't come a point where the conversation has been something like, oh, I've been so busy the last couple. I've had so much on, and it's been so stressful. So I haven't done the thing, haven't done the stuff, haven't used the compass, which is the equivalent of going. I've just been too thirsty to drink the water this last week. Honestly, I can't say. I know what you're going to say. I should just drink the water, but I've been so thirsty I couldn't possibly. Because that's what it is. It's like, okay, you've been so stressed out, you're not going to do the thing that actually alleviates the stress. You've been so overwhelmed, you're not going to do the thing that helps you return to that equilibrium. And not only that, but in this case, the thing that helps you actively transmute your relationship to that thing so it doesn't overwhelm you going forward. Yeah. But it's normal, because it's when we are most overwhelmed, when we are most under stress, that our patterns will come and drive. It's when we are stretched to that degree, when we're no longer to make our best decisions, to access our highest wisdom. We're more on primal drives then, we're more on survival. And to varying degrees, we are, by nature of our neurophysiology, we're experiencing varying degrees of primal and human consciousness. And it's literal blood flow that you can measure. When you get triggered and stressed, the blood flow goes to the hindbrain, where the subconscious is, where the patterns reside. When you're relaxed and you're in a state of homeostasis and you're present, and the blood flow is coming to the prefrontal cortex, where you can make really good decisions, like, I'm thirsty, so I should probably drink that water. I'm really stressed and overwhelmed, and I'm going to keep getting things wrong to varying degrees, and things are going to become worse and worse for me. So perhaps I should do that thing that helps me return to myself, and then helps me actually actively transform my relationship within this stress, so I don't keep experiencing it in the same way. It's very difficult to accomplish, because we're the state of being we're in that moment. So we have to know what to do, and we have to know how to do it, and that's what we're going to teach you. That's what you're going to learn. So you can, as the course says, you can master yourself, you can master your state of being. But first, we really have to get to grips with our inner horse. First, we really have to go on this adventure of getting so deeply connected to why the hell we're doing that. Because without that, it's not going to happen. It's not. When we come to the fork in the roads moments, where the gravity of our habits and our patterns and the things we've always said, been and done is enormous, so enormous it happens just automatically. In those fork of the road moments, what are we going to do? Instead of that thing we've always said, that thing we've always done, and that person we've always been. Well, in order to overcome that gravity, you have to create an opposing gravity, and that is created through a very deep connection to what is most meaningful to us. That's the thing. Without that, it's habits and patterns to varying degrees, and then self-justification, most of which will be invisible to you, as you convince yourself there's nothing different you could have done. When we're in those fork of the road moments, which we meet every single day, throughout every single day, and we're connected to what is most meaningful to us, we have this presence of awareness to go, oh, that's direction, that step, that one step in that different thing, way of being, saying, doing. And it's being able to do that that changes everything. We can give you the compass, and you can use it, but you've got to be able to have your awareness of when to use it and why to use it. You've got to be able to wake yourself up. You've got to become more awake and present to be able to go, oh yeah, I've got this thing. The cool thing is the compass itself helps you cultivate that awareness. It helps you transform yourself in such a way that you become more present and aware in these moments. You can access those better choices that make more sense in the mid to long term, rather than doing that thing right now that is rooted in some level of fear and avoidance. So I know, obviously Lee and Tom are aware of what I've experienced the last couple of years. But let me share. So 2.5 years ago now, I was mostly bedbound with severe illness. And as David would testify, not only couldn't I walk very well, but I couldn't speak or think very well either. I was at a horrible place that I didn't know I'd necessarily recover from. Like, this is every rock bottom, like the multiverse. It's my business gone, because obviously my business is me. My health gone, my relationship gone, all within a very short period of time. Everything gone. Not only was everything gone, I couldn't even think, walk or talk to be able to do anything about it in that moment. And I didn't know if I would recover, and I didn't know if I would live. Things were getting so bad. So I went through this process that I'm going to invite you guys into, because I knew a lot already, right? I knew so much stuff. But there's something I needed to be able to apply what I know and discover what I didn't know that I needed to learn too. Because it's understandable to give up when things are at that kind of place, right? No one will begrudge anyone. Of course, look at what you're going through. Look at what you're contending with. It's so difficult. So it's not like you just should. I just should have found a way to get better. There's no shouldness about it. It's monstrously difficult. All of the things we individually face that are monstrously difficult are monstrously difficult. But no matter what it is we're going through, no matter what it is we're facing, we do within us have the potential to create good and to make better. We do. People do it. And we can do it. The thing that got me moving forward, and I mean clawing my way forward millimeters day by day, because there wasn't any other route forward. I couldn't skip this process. I was physically unable to function and look after myself. The thing that got me moving forward, or able to move myself forward, was connecting to what was most meaningful for me. Without that, I don't know what would have become of me, but I know that that's what got me out. The thing is, what was most meaningful to me was heartbreaking. Like the most heartbreaking, the most painful thing. It was the thing that I most wanted to avoid, the thing I most wanted to distract from, the thing I most wanted not to feel or acknowledge. And that was the potential, well, two things: not being able to be an able dad for my daughter. She'd come in, right? I'm in bed and I'm in this way. And up until now, even though I'd had a lot to contend with already with physical health, she saw me as a certain way. She saw me as resilient. She saw me as capable. She saw me as safety. I was always able to step up for her. But now I'm incapacitated, and she'd come in and she'd give me a hug, and then she'd leave and I'd cry my eyes out. One, in appreciation that she's there, because I had nothing. But two, it broke my heart that I couldn't be a dad. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do all the things that I felt I should be doing. And then the other thing, what if I'm never able to do that? Man, I'm saying the words now and I feel it in my heart. What if I'm never able to do that? What if actually I'm not even here and all those things were possible? What if I'm not even here? Now, there's something we do with these moments, and you may all be doing it to some varying degrees right now. This abyss of awful feeling, you need to somehow get rid of it. You need to shut it down, change it, avoid it, distract from it. We all do that. That's the coping mechanism we've learned over a lifetime. Bad feelings feel bad, feel something different, right? Now it's understandable, but it doesn't work when it comes to changing our lives in meaningful ways. Because if I'd have done that, I don't know what would have become of me. So this is what I knew, half theoretically up until this point, and what I experienced in the deepest possible way. Within our heartbreak is like this infinite resource of strength, motivation, courage. It's just that we don't go into it. You know, we don't go near enough, go around, we go touch it and then get away from it. I couldn't, I had nowhere to go. So I had to embrace it fully and completely. The thing I've been telling everybody to do for years and had never done to this degree. God, that might happen. That could happen. I had to meet that completely and fully. Not half, not a bit. Not think positively around it and not hope for the best. I had to actually go and fully hug that cactus. Now, and it's like, and I've compared this as a metaphor to splitting the atom. It's like that. It's like you get into your heartbreak, what's in there for you. It's like this treasure trove. And it feels, heartbreak is the worst thing you can feel. You know, when I'm saying heartbreak, you know, this isn't an exaggeration. This is the worst you can possibly feel. But it happens to be the worst you can possibly feel because of what it means to you. That's really important. We're walking around most of the time avoiding a deep awareness and connection to what is most meaningful to us because it hurts to go near. But like that's why it's the most that's why it hurts more than anything can hurt, because it's the most meaningful thing to you. To anyone else, or not generically, but to you. To me, I remember going through the process of mourning of what I was losing and lost and could lose, and very close was my work. I felt I hadn't done it yet. I hadn't really done it yet. I'd done good, but I hadn't got the legacy yet. I hadn't got the completed thing. The book, the manual, it wasn't there, and that was really important. Like incredibly important. But that was such a far away a second from my daughter and being a father that it didn't even matter. There was only one thing that really, really mattered, at the root of me, my very soul. And that's what I accessed. So I had this moment, and it was through this process where, and it's such a strange moment, unless you lived it, I could barely walk. Making it to the bathroom twice a day was pretty much my maximum. But I got myself to the edge of my bed where my dumbbell was resting and I haven't touched for many months because obviously I couldn't. And I reached down and I was so much pain, I was so weak, I was a stone underweight by then. And I lifted it up and I lifted it like once and then I put it back down. And it really hurt, let me tell you, because I was so full of pain and inflammation. And I had this moment, if I can lift that up once, I can lift it up twice. And if I can lift it up twice, I can lift it up 20 times. It's just a matter of time. And I've shared this before, and I've shared this in a post, I'm sure you guys remember. If it was just my body picking it up, I wouldn't have done it. It was too painful to lift. I was too weak. I had to lift it up with my meaning. I had to lift it up with what it meant to me. I wasn't just lifting a dumbbell because of some macho bullshit, because, you know, I'll get myself out. I was lifting that dumbbell because me becoming physically well is me as a father. That's my presence and ability as a father. I need to become physically strong. So I wasn't lifting the dumbbell with my body, I was lifting it with my meaning and the reason I was lifting it. The amazing thing that's happened for me is that happens every time I lift a dumbbell. That happens every time I get out of bed and put my feet on the ground, because of the depth I went with that process. Day by day, inch by inch, step by step, these miracles happened over a period of time. One of the first things I did as well, after the dumbbell moment, was I called David. And because when you really face the reality of this, then it's like, well, what have I got to do? Yeah, I want to make things better, but what if it doesn't go better? And that's the reality I had to face, because otherwise I'm not really facing it. If I'm not facing the worst thing that can happen, then I'm not really facing it. So I called David and I let him know everything I needed him to do and be if I didn't make it. I gave him access to investments and things to make sure he could set up a fund and to then finance my daughter's education because I homeschool. And we had that conversation. I don't remember that conversation very well. According to David, I wasn't able to talk very well or very clearly, and it took some time. But that was like, this is when people say my rock bottom became the firm foundation that I've rebuilt my life from. Because you can't pretend you're not in it. You can't avoid how you feel about it, because what you need to get out of it is what you feel about it, is what it means to you. That becomes, people say, about motivation. You don't need motivation. Motivation isn't a thing. You need meaning. When I was going to the gym, finally, after I got myself to that point, believe me, I wasn't motivated. I felt like shit. I just knew what I needed to do because I knew what was most meaningful to me and what got me in that direction. So the great news about this is, the really good news is, it doesn't matter what you feel, you can still do what you need to do to move forward to that place that ends up feeling a lot better. This is what so much is wrong in the self-help world, is because no one actually knows what the hell they're talking about. So they're all trying to get you to feel differently. Oh, motivation's the problem, so we need to get people motivated. Feeling bad's the problem, we need to get people to feel good. No, that's not it. It's like everybody's moving in circles because the guidance is wrong. It's wrong. So we've got a lot of things that we can present that are more in that orientation that actually works. Really works. We need to connect with what's most meaningful to us. We need to be able to get real and get honest. We need to be able to express ourselves more real, more honestly. These are all fundamentals that we're going to then move from, okay? That radical realness that I found myself in was the firmest of foundations. Now think about this. If you need to move forward, if you need to build steps from a place you don't want to be and you want to get away from, unless your foundations are really real, like forged in steel and stone because of how real they are, they're going to crumble as soon as things get difficult. So the varying degrees of bullshit that we come up with to get ourselves moving forward, create these very weak foundations, and then we wonder why it ends up toppling over again. You've got to start from this very real place. Then the steps that you create are forged in steel and stone. Then when the troubling times come, you don't get knocked back down, you're just slowed down. Just slowed down. Okay? So, and I don't know what David's already said and expressed to you guys, but what the invitation is for this journey, and it's a choice you have to make, right? Here's the choice, because the invitation is get more honest and more real with yourself now, and then unlock a potential for dramatically better in your world, or not. Because we see the nots, we see the people that do and the miracles that happen, and we see the people that don't and the nothing that happens. Tragically, when you give the water, here it is, and my God, you're dying of thirst. You need to drink, and it doesn't happen. Why? Because instead of going, I'm gonna own myself, I'm gonna be so real, so honest, and so expressive. Instead of doing that, it's like, no, I'm gonna keep putting this slant on my part in things. I'm gonna hold back from actually being that kind of vulnerable and that kind of courageous. We're going to hold back. And when you hold back, there's this thing, there's this phenomenon. And again, it's not understood. So in order to, and the word is transmute emotions, okay? That's what we want to do. There's changing or there's transcending, right? Transcending's good because you're no longer feeling the emotion in the same way. But what happens is people tend to descend back unless it's a transmutative transcendence. So here's the difference. You can transcend something by going to a seminar where they get you up and clapping and jumping around and feels fun, right? And I've done those seminars as well, right? I've done those and it's fun, it's amazing, it's beautiful. But then you go back to your life and it's gone. You can, if you're feeling stressed, you can do whatever your pattern does. There's some typical ones. Some people just start moving shit around. Tidying is a stress response, right? Leg jigglers, you know, that's a subtle one. An embodied stress response. You can say that thing you've always said, do that thing you've always done. You can live out your patterns in whatever way. You could go drinking, you know, whatever it is. You feel bad, some form of avoidance or distraction, you can do that. So you can change how you feel, but you're not going to change the structures of your feelings. That's the difference between transcending something, changing something, and transmuting it. Transmutation means you're not only changing how you feel now, you're changing how you are and how you will feel in the future when experiencing that same thing, right? So we have a process built upon transmutation, which is nowhere near as much fun in the short term. You know, it's far more fun to be like, here's why you feel better, because you're always good enough and you're always doing your best and you've got lovely hair. You know, there's that. But if you actually want to feel differently in the long term, be a different person, live a different life, then it means a transmutative approach. That means the embracement of that which feels bad. That means what Jung coined as shadow work. The degrees of which what you feel and what you express of what you feel will facilitate that transmutation. So there's two forms of transmutation that we're working with, right? One is active expression, saying how we feel, saying it as honestly as we know how to say it. Then there's the internal, that's the willingness to feel. We become willing to feel within ourselves, and that's rooted in acknowledgement. So there's two ways of doing this. You acknowledge internally, I feel this, or you express externally, I feel this, okay? The degrees with which that expression, so what you're acknowledging within you and what you're saying, the degrees with which that can facilitate this active transmutation of emotion is dependent on how honest you are. And here's the phenomenon people don't realise. If you're feeling something, right, and then let's give an example of talking about it because it's more explicit, and you're saying something about that feeling that isn't actually accurate, that isn't actually a very real expression and articulation of that emotion, if it's something self-protective, right? If you're doing that, you're actively suppressing the emotion. Not properly understood. So if you're feeling something but saying something that isn't true about it, you're actively suppressing that emotion. However, if what you're saying about the emotion is more honest than you've ever been, if what you're saying about yourself and how you feel and what's going on in life is more honest than you've ever been, you are actively transmuting that emotion through that more honest expression. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Again, this is the choice. And we all make, and again, we're doing it invisible to ourselves. You're holding back, you're protective. Surviving, right? The origin of the word emotion, and the word emotion is curious in itself, it's emotion, right? It's movement. So we don't want to suppress, we don't want to keep stuck, we don't want to shut down. We need to facilitate a movement. It derives from the French, émouvoir, to stir. It's all about movement. So what we need to do with emotion is facilitate movement. We facilitate movement through acknowledgement, honest acknowledgement and expression. And I'm sure you appreciate over your lifetime, like all of us, you've learned various ways to not do that. You know, of course you have. Of course we all have. We had to. You know, in the environments we were in, we had to increasingly learn to guard our feelings and to avoid feeling bad. If you've been the one that's done that thing, knocked over that thing or broke that thing, and your parents come in and go, who did that? And if it can be somebody else, it's you learn it's advantageous to make it somebody else. You know, it wasn't me, it was them. It was here like that when I got here. You learn to lie to avoid feeling bad, to avoid the consequences of what's real, right? And then multiply that by a lifetime, and here we are. So, the invitation is here right now. You've either come here to write it out, you know, or you've come here for something significant to change. And that's a choice you make now in what we're about to start doing together. And what I encourage and what I urge, lovingly urge you all to do is go, right, I'm going to be the realest, most honest, most expressive that I've ever been in my life. Right now. Because the life that comes through that is the best your life can be. I promise you. I promise you. No matter what has happened or what comes. Right now, that was pretty bad, that experience I'm sharing right now, right? Of being bedbound. Last 2 years have been way worse for me. Way worse. The last year, way worse. Beyond words, things unfortunately I'm not going to share myself. But they're very, very bad. Very, very difficult. Thank God I have this. Thank God I have this. And so there's no ivory towel. There's never an ivory towel with me when I'm casting these invitations. I'm in it now. I'm living it. My life is extraordinarily difficult. And if I didn't have what I'm offering to you, if I didn't have what I'm offering to you, I certainly wouldn't be this guy over here doing this. And I've got no fucking idea how that's even possible, really. The only way it's possible is this. What I have to share with you really works. Either that, or I have some form of mental illness, which somehow allows me to thrive in the most ridiculous circumstances. I think it's the thing works, right? So the invitation is things can be so much better. The invitation, the pathway is prickly, right? It's prickly. And it's the willingness to go on that prickly path with us today. Yeah? Mm-hmm. No, that's not enough. You've been here before.
Yes.
More than ever before, right?
Yeah.
More than ever before.
Let's fucking go.
Okay. Andy, I know it's hard. Believe me, I know. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jeanette?
I said outside, 100%.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent. Honestly, it moves me beyond words when we're in this dynamic. Because right now, this is the support is here, and the trust. I take this investment very seriously. I live with it in my heart because it's It's really something, and I want to thank you. I can't tell you the brain damage that self-help has done, especially the last 15 years since we've had social media.
Can I just say,
Go on.
toxic positivity?
Yes, exactly right. But this, all that plus unconscious belief structures. Now, I'm gonna invite into increased awareness, because, when we start identifying things, we don't need to go to the things that I need to accept and the things I need to do, right? Especially when we're expressing. Sorry, it wasn't Emily. That used to happen. When we're wanting to acknowledge and express, we don't want to race away to the solution, especially when that solution, especially when we don't know what the solution is actually. And what we're doing here, foundationally what we're going to be doing is, and this is a truism, the solution is within the problem. And the closer we get to the problem, the more the solution emerges. Not as something necessarily we need to identify and do something about, but it's something that unfolds and happens within us. This is why getting close to that problem, as close as possible, and getting within it and expressing it, it is the equivalent of taking your car to the mechanic and him actually knowing what part needs changing. What's the problem? It's not working. Why is it not working? I don't know. And he just starts randomly changing parts. I'll just go, I'm going to replace the bonnet, pump up the tyres, rather than actually getting to the heart of what actually needs attention, right? Now, while that metaphor holds up quite well, especially as a joke, that's not what we need to do specifically. We don't need to get to the problem to identify and replace it and know what to do with it. On the level of emotion, it's about a deepening of our presence with it. It's a deepening of our willingness to feel. It's a deepening of an expression of it. That's how emotion works. Over the course of this 5 months, you're going to learn and understand the 4D compass. It's very simple. Emotion, the body, thought, transcendence. Now, the dimension of emotion, you mentioned Eckhart Tolle, I'm delighted you did actually. The dimension of emotion is not the same as the dimension of thought. It has a different nature and it has a different solution. What we've fallen into over the course of well over a century now, the birth of psychoanalysis, the intention of psychoanalysis, was emotional release, my term, transmutation. And that's what Freud was attempting to facilitate with psychoanalysis. What has happened over this course of time is everything's become very thought focused. And that's a disaster, because we've become thought focused anyway. That's the reason that psychoanalysis and all the therapeutics have become so thought focused, because we make everything thought focused. If I could give you this, and understand that for the most part I like to use what we call heuristics, and that's instead of taking the most time getting to the specific mechanics of something, being able to identify something in a way that we understand and can use, that's a heuristic. Okay, so when we developed physically, emotionally, and then cognitively in that order. When we're children, and you understand this if you had children, they're not thinking all that much. They're feeling all the time. So when they're crawling along, they're feeling the sensation of the carpet on there, and they're laughing and happy and content. What is it that's going on? Their experience is emotional. Physical sensation has an emotion with it. Viewing a colour has an emotion with it. It's an emotion. So what they're experiencing sensorially is translated instantly in emotion, and that's what they're experiencing. They're not thinking, oh, that's the colour red, I like the colour red, I'm going to smile about it. It's all visceral and it's all immediate, right? Over the course of time, as we develop more cognitively, we become very thinking, and we start thinking about everything. And as we experience emotional trauma, we more and more disconnect from our emotional experience and go very much into thinking. Now, we are still feeling all of the time. It's just that we're finding ways not to. And those are embedded coping mechanisms of distraction. You know, any form of fidgeting is a coping mechanism, rooted. That's why we know that fidgeting in the shaky leg is a nervous response. We know that. Well, what's going on there? It's emotional trauma, companioned with a physical coping mechanism to distract from that. That's why people start doing that, even if it's so unconscious, right? And it's embedded, it's so deep, so deep. Like the pattern of, okay, I'm gonna express where I failed or what this is, but then my thinky brain's gonna go, so you need to do this and you so need to do that, and you know, I've done my best, okay. And we're skipping away. We are doing the cognitive and verbal equivalent of shaking our leg. Does that make sense? So if we really want this meaningful change, we need to come underneath that. We need to spend more time and slow things down and be willing to feel. Willing to feel is the fundamental step. That means nothing so complicated as, but this is why I'm feeling it, and this is why it's okay to feel it, and you know, this is what I need to do to change the feeling of it. It's the deepening of our acknowledgement of the feeling itself. Why are we doing that? Because that's the nature of emotion. It needs to be felt. And if it's not being felt, like a messenger, it's going to keep returning with that message. And we're going to keep ignoring the message, touching the message. Too hot. The message is too hot. I like that metaphor. The messages don't get delivered fully. We are haunted by negative thinking because we haven't fully felt the emotional information that we need to. We don't need to understand it. We don't need to figure out where it's come from or what we need to do. We just need to be willing to feel it fundamentally. This is obviously not easy, as simple as I just made it sound. And it is simple, but it's not easy because we have an embodied state that has been cultivated over decades to not do that, to limit how much we're doing that. We're going to start the process with these processes. The invitation is, and the encouragement is, okay, the willingness to feel this and express it. And when my mind's going to the next thing, and the other thing, and the here's and the why's and the, I'm going to come back here. And acknowledge what I'm feeling, and express from it. Such a difference, talking from something and talking about it. Really important difference. We need to do some deprogramming when it comes to the self-help noise, desperately. Now I need you to understand this. The driving intention behind most of self-help is to avoid feeling bad, and it is destroying people. I mentioned regret. Well, self-help most of the time will tell you, you know, not to regret, and there's all sorts of distractive reasoning behind why not to regret. That's not how life works. It's a very simple process. If you make a mistake, you need to learn from the mistake to correct it, and regret is the emotional feedback. And so when you hear this, like, no regrets, it's like, man, no, be careful. I've got a different orientation. I need to be very, very willing to engage with my regrets. And here's the thing that is so important. When you start doing this, deeper, more honestly, you start to de-haunt yourself, because all of the things within our regrets, our shame, the things we should have done differently, better, all of those things are going to haunt you until you turn and go, okay, give me all of it. Give me the whole message. Okay. I regret this. I am ashamed of this. I failed here. It feels terrible when we do that more deeply than we've been doing it. It feels awful. But in our willingness to do it, we start to transmute that emotional charge. In our presence within that emotion as it truly exists for us, we can start actually getting clearer in our thinking and start making decisions. It's possible to make decisions, Andy, when all your emotions are conflating. We need to be able to engage with them, we need to be able to feel them, and it's like a ground up process. We feel, and then we come to the point of engaging with what we're thinking about things. The problem is we're trying to correct everything from the top down. You know, it's like, let's think our way out of this emotion, let's think our way out of this situation. The problem is your embodied state is full of that emotion. So in some way you're going to keep creating the same problems unless you can facilitate a transmutation, become more present within how you feel, more fully receive that emotion, so you're then able to engage thinking on a different level. You can transcend that emotion through a transmutation. We're not talking about emotions going away. That's not the orientation. It's about becoming more present within them, and then being able, the thing you do, you can actually, it can be genuinely meaningful. Most of the time, almost all of the time, the thing we are doing makes things worse. And the reason is because our state is dictated by the emotion, our thoughts and our actions and our words, driven in some way by that, creating something like it. There's this whole breaking free that can happen. Like, let me give you, I really like this example. So I was working with a young mother, right? And she was basically falling apart. She had a 3-year-old kid, she was falling apart. And I said, okay, give me one example of something you find really difficult. She's losing her temper all the time, she's triggered all the time. Give me one example. Okay. When we need to get somewhere, we need to go out, he won't put his coat on for us to go out, and we have this tug of war. He ends up getting crying and upset. I force his coat on, I'm upset, I'm shouting, then I'm in the car feeling terrible, we're late, it's a disaster. Repeat, day by day, right? Normal, very normal kind of cycle. Okay. When that trigger comes up, that's your cue. Now, triggers generally possess us and we act out something. We say, be and do to survive. When we're triggered, it's our cue to stop and feel. That's what a trigger is for. I want to be very clear here, unless we are in the middle of the road, there is a car coming, and that trigger is saying jump out of the road. That's what it's for, to survive us. But do you see how insane it is that we are acting on these triggers in a survival way when there is no car coming, and we're not in the middle of the road? Almost all of the time when we're triggered, we need to stop and feel. So I give this to her. And it takes time. But then we had that wonderful call where she said, I did the thing. What happened? Well, we're going out and we'll put his coat on. Okay, how did that feel? Terrible. What did you do? Nothing. I stopped and felt. She just became aware in that moment. Rather than being possessed, she became aware. Okay, stop, feel. Okay, how did that feel? Awful, of course. Then she found herself saying, okay, if you don't want to put your coat on, it's your body, you don't have to. And then they left. And he stepped outside and he said, Mum, it's cold, can I have my coat? And the solution emerges. A solution she didn't have access to because of her embodied state. And she'd been trying to think of, how do I say this, how do I do this, you know, how do I keep doing the same thing differently? But what happened in that moment of stopping and feeling, becoming more present within the emotion, willing to feel it, you have to be, led to her waking up and led to the solution presenting itself. This is the direction we want to go in, because almost all problems go away when we take this direction, and then we're just left with the other problems and we're able to contend with them. Regrets are the best feedback, my goodness. When I have not been good enough as a parent, and again we're told you're always good enough, what on earth are you saying? There's a guy called Charlie Kirk, a commentator I follow, and he said when he was in 7th grade, his teacher wrote up on the wall, "You are perfect just the way you are." And he put his hand up, he said, "Sir, if that's true, why am I at school?" Exactly. It is horseshit. We're going for horse water, not horse shit. Now, why does that exist? Why does the you always doing enough and always good enough and you're always doing your best? Why does it exist? To stop you feeling bad. Does it work? No. It does the opposite of the intention, because it's being compassionate. It's compassion driven, and unfortunately, compassion isn't enough. You need courage and wisdom, because compassion will do some really stupid things. Compassion will lead you to absolute hell on its own. Compassion is the feeling David was talking about, right? You know, you feel bad because they're feeling bad, and you do the thing. When you have a child and they're doing a puzzle, and they're like really young, 8 months old, on the floor doing the puzzle, and they're putting the different shapes into different blocks and all that kind of stuff, and they start struggling, and they start growling, what does compassion do? Compassion goes and does it for them. Ruins that child's emotional or mental health. Because compassion, oh my God, I'm feeling this thing that my child's feeling. And the thing is, you know, mothers especially, they have such high levels of compassion because you need to be sensitive to the child's needs. It is impossible not to get this wrong. Then we have, probably in this room, fairly high sensitive males as well. We experience it our own ways. I've experienced it. I understand it, maybe to different degrees. Your kid is struggling with that puzzle and they're growling, getting frustrated, and then you feel not only the compassion from what they're feeling, you also feel the frustration of the next bit, a parent coming and doing it for you. Or maybe you also feel the trauma of being treated with frustration when you were having a frustrated moment as a child. That's there. And God, you need that to go away. When you become a toddler that's scared for their safety, you need that feeling to go away and feel safe again. So you might get up and do that puzzle for them. But what does wisdom know? Wisdom knows, I need this child to grow up to be someone that can actually feel and process emotions and can actually solve problems for themselves. That's what I need. So wisdom holds off. And then there's a depth now to compassion, because what it's companioned with is courage. The courage to stop and feel that bad thing. The courage to slow down and feel uncomfortable because you need to, and not do that stupid thing that you've always done. And then, if you take things slow, well, they can probably do it themselves. And what you've just given this immense gift of allowing them the space to feel and allowing them the opportunity to solve problems for themselves, developing the neurophysiology they need to do that in life. And maybe not developing the same coping mechanisms we did, because we were never given the opportunity to feel, because someone was always coming along and trying to change that, whether it's through anger or love. Compassion. Love is more than compassion. Love has courage in it. I know this makes sense. I know this makes a lot of sense. Right now, we need to start changing the orientation for ourselves. Because the mistakes have been made upon us as we were children, and we, of course, continue to make them ourselves. Of course we have. Why wouldn't we? You know, this is a depth of understanding and awareness we certainly didn't have access to. When I have been angry, if I've responded with anger to my daughter, if I've overreacted, as soon as possible I become aware of that, what I want to do is come to her and say, first it's acknowledgement, right? This is what's going on, because so often what is happening is we do that thing and we self-justify to varying degrees, you know. My parents never said sorry to me for anything, and it's kind of normal. I'm the parent in the authority, it kind of weakens my position. Stupid. Right, that was me. That was me. Does it feel good? No. Do I need to feel that bad? Yes. If you avoid the bad feelings, you create a life to feel bad about. If you're willing to feel bad when you need to, you can create a life to feel better about. I need to feel bad because I did the bad thing. Regret informing me. My willingness to feel it. Don't rush this process. This process is everything. Do I really love my daughter? Yes. Then I'll feel this. Because that's what's most meaningful. If I really love her now, I'm willing to feel bad for her. Because I got this wrong. And then it allows me to do the next thing, which makes me creates something good enough to make me feel better than I did before the thing even happened. Honey, I'm really sorry. I've reacted, that wasn't right. It wasn't good enough. And I love making sure I'm drumming these ideas. It wasn't good enough, and I'll do my best to do better. Now it might be that I still need something she actually did. And I go, look, I do need you to change that and that, but this is mine I got wrong and it's not helping you. So I need to do better with that. Okay, and I'm sorry. What happens then? Connection, trust, safety for her and for me. And then on the other side, I can feel good, because what I just did there is actually might be better than the thing not happening in the first place, right? Because life's going to come up and be mean to them. And for them to be able to come to safety and responsibility together with that is a beautiful gift. And you said you want to feel safe, right? Yeah. The thing is, I'm not sure you've encountered the right direction to find that safety, and it's because of this. Safety comes from one place. Strength. If you're in a safe environment, you're not safe within yourself, you're in a safe environment. Now that's great, we want to be in safe environments, but we're forever not in safe environments. And things are coming along to challenge us. Safety comes through strength. Let me qualify it, because it's an unconventional idea in self-development or self-help. How safe do you think, Lee, I'm going to pick on you because you're the smallest in the room. Lee's walking down a dark alley on her own versus David walking down a dark alley on his own. Who's safest?
David.
It's David. David's the safest. Why is David safer?
Because he's bigger than me.
And he's stronger. Straightforward. You know. That metaphor holds up quite well emotionally. If that comes around that challenges your safety, that's, you know, you can just sit at home indoors all day and be miserable forever, you'll be relatively safe. Relatively, but still just relatively. Or if you engage with life and things come along and they challenge your feeling of safety, how much that succeeds, what actually happens for you, is dependent on how strong you are, how emotionally resilient you are. How do we cultivate that? How do we build it? By retreating away from things that make us feel bad? You have to lift weights to build muscle. We have to engage with that which is emotionally challenging in order to cultivate that emotional strength. Now, the degrees to which we do this is very dependent on how emotionally strong we feel and are right now. Because we want to do it in a proximal way. We can do it gently, we can do it slowly, but we do need to do it. We do need to bring ourselves towards that direction. That begins, the invitation is it begins here and now with the acknowledgement of how we feel and just keep it pure. Acknowledgement of how you feel. You talked also about forgiveness, Andy, and the reason that nobody can accomplish that, anybody that's been exposed to any degrees of self-help can actually accomplish forgiveness, is because forgiveness, we don't need to forgive. What we need to do is accept how we feel about the thing fundamentally. So I need to forgive myself. Translates to what actually works, what actually can accomplish freedom is I need to acknowledge how I feel about myself. I need to acknowledge how I feel about the mistakes I've made. I need to acknowledge that. Anything that doesn't begin there is bypassing that. And that means it's right there underneath everything else. What I would say you need, what we all need, and what builds emotional strength is self-worth. And you cannot fool yourself into self-worth. It doesn't matter how many times you say I'm good enough the way I am, you will not feel that self-worth that you need to, that actually brings out real emotional resilience. And your self-worth is very much dependent upon you. Are you doing and being what you value as worthwhile? That's where your self-worth will come from. No other place. Now, low self-worth, what does it come from? The pathological avoidance of all the information internally that leads you to actually doing and being the things that you know are worthwhile. This is the spiky path, right? This is the prickly path right now. All the other guys have so much of a more inviting invitation, don't they?
We do.
You're good enough, come with me.
Come jump around.
Come with me. Gumdrop. You know?
With a nice pillow.
Yes, pillows, we've got pillows. And, yeah. Okay. Here's some meaningfulness within all of this that's very important. The moment that you become more willing to acknowledge and feel, the moment you acknowledge your personal reality, which is how you feel emotionally, which will obviously be connected to real events, the moment you become willing to do that in a very, very deep way, there's a strength you can connect with there. But that has to exist, because if I'm lifting that weight, the strength to lift it must exist. If I'm willing to feel it, the strength to feel it must exist. And that moment we go deeper with our willingness to feel, come away from our coping mechanisms and patterns and do that. It feels horrible emotionally, but there's something good in there too for us. Whether we feel it explicitly in the moment or not. And life only begins getting better from that moment.
you should have heard our conversations before we came in. There were about 2 or 3 references to
The
horses.
horses,
Yeah.
yeah, it was the
And
horse
we
thing.
came in.
Yeah.
It's all about
And
horses.
the horse. It felt like more than a coincidence
There's no such thing as coincidence.
to have 3 different references. Who brought it up first?
I think it was me.
Mm.
So it's all about
Yeah,
what I
that's
wear.
right.
Yeah. You need to banish the naysayers.
Banish the naysayer. Very good, very good. Yeah. Oh, honestly, I'm not. Look, can't bring synchronicities into things because you're skipping to day 3. Hey, don't get me started. Because I'll skip to day 3. Because oh my goodness, I've got things to share related to that stuff now. Crikey. Life is a very strange thing. I was go on.
You were talking about being haunted, and that's a word I use a lot. And I feel like it's people, classically, people and places are triggers. But I come to realise I'm the trigger.
You're the common denominator.
It's not the people and places, it's what I think is triggering me. It's not, like, I keep thinking there's nowhere I can go where I'm not haunted. Because
Yeah.
every place has got some meaning, every people have got meaning. But
No
it's
safe space.
Yeah, but
There
it's
is no
just,
safe
Yeah.
space.
there is no safe. It's my head. So
Yeah.
Well, it's your nervous system fundamentally, and that's what we're going to go towards. Because again, the idea that it's all our thinking is part of the problem as well.
but I'm just amazed that, to be honest, so far I've been here regarding the nervous system, so it hasn't been going like it normally does. So it feels safe.
Is that because it feels real?
Shall I?
Part-
Listen, let me jump in. Sorry. Honesty is safe. We don't even realise it. Honesty is safe. Right? Realness is safe. Sorry, go on.
Well, I think that's part of the problem is that it doesn't. This is a space where obviously we are being honest, right? So and I think outside, it doesn't feel safe to say what I actually feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's, and there are all sorts of reasons why that. Yeah, and I've had to embrace. Trust. You have to.
Mm.
Like you can't do everything on your own, right?
Mm.
You're gonna have to trust some other people.
Yeah.
Whether it's coaches or friends or doctors or all of them, at some point you've got to let go and trust. And I'm someone that's used to trying to work out everything on my own.
Yeah, me too. I'm very don't like relying on other people at all. And particularly now my trust has been broken, I'm just like everyone can all just go off and do one.
And that's the place we find ourselves doing, drifting from one place to the other rather than this midpoint, which is you need to trust yourself and others. That needs to be a companionship for you. This is the problem. We're living in a very polarised time. Why do we live in a polarised time? Because we are embodying a polarised consciousness. It happens to be where we are. Things are this, things are that. They're safe or they're unsafe. Now, of course, that comes from survival. Of course, you're either safe here or there's something a threat to your survival here. And that's fundamentally what we, with our primal ancestry, were looking to discern. And now that is driving from our nervous system, emotionally, cognitively, driving our thinking. Is it this or is it that? Because if it's not this, it must be that. And the more survival consciousness we're in, the more we see things in those polarised terms. And so what do? Well, okay, if it's not that, it must be this. And it's not that, so it must have been that. And we go between the things.
It's just your sympathetic nervous system is just
That's it.
the whole time.
That's it. And you need to attach to something which you know is something, and it doesn't work. Which is why we need to come to a place of coherence where we can go, okay, bit of this, bit of that, maybe here, maybe that here, maybe this here, maybe this, and it's a process that we can enter into so long as we are actually willing to engage with the feeling first, because then we can get clear-minded enough to see, oh, okay, oh, of course, it's this. We're dealing with degrees and spectrums here of things, you know. Maybe you're a very naive person who's way too trusting, and then you discover that you shouldn't have been trusting. That doesn't now mean you have to be untrusting and go the other way. It means you were too trusting and you need to come further this way. It might be that you're a completely untrusting person, and then you receive selflessness and kindness, and somehow it breaks that spell. Well, that's strange. Doesn't mean you go around trusting everybody. You know, we have locks on our doors for a reason.
This is what happened with my parents when I started to look at my own patterns, and then looked at my parents like, it's all your fault. Now I need to disconnect completely from them, and then now it's about, oh, they just did the best they could.
And it, you know, we're doing our best. You know, I don't like it because one, the intention is let's feel better about things, and maybe I'm helping you feel better, maybe I'm helping me feel better. But when you get close, it's like, okay, but could you have done better? Well, yeah. So then what does it mean, and does it help you, and does it serve you? Better actually just to disregard all of that stuff. Gets us in trouble. And instead just go, yeah, they made mistakes because they're human. It's like I'm in this situation because of the mistakes my parents made. Okay, but how far do you want to pass that baton down because they're in the same boat as you? Right? It becomes something that there's nothing to do with other than for yourself. Right, listen. This happened to me the other day, and like I said, this 2 years has been hell and beautiful because of what I get to be and do now with it, and in this moment included. I'm having to do something very important. This report I need to respond to, and it's very complicated, and I need to, you know, my health challenges mean that I'm not as focused or as clear as I was historically. My brain hasn't grown back yet fully, and I find this very difficult, this process. Daughter comes in, interrupts me 3, 4, 5 times, right? I do my best with that. Then she goes out, and I find myself really trying to focus with this, and the cat is downstairs meowing.
I love it so much.
Because the cat hasn't been fed by my annoying interrupting daughter, right? So there's a lot going on there, and I just find myself suddenly, and I got filled with rage. And if the rage possessed me, I'd be walking down that stairs, and I'd be kicking that cat or shouting at that cat, something at that cat, right? And the intensity of it, it was really very intense. Wonderfully, I have this. So that intensity of emotion now actually wakes me up. It does kind of the opposite on a lot of these occasions. I became present within it. I feel this, oh my God, I don't want to, but I need to. And now I'm not abusing my cat, and I'm not, you know, doing any of these stupid things.
Or SPCA.
But what happened for me, and this is a hell of a phenomenon that happens a lot, as I'm in this moment and with this moment, I got this memory. And I got a memory of me when I was a kid, very, very young, preschool I think, calling up the stairs to my mum and my dad coming along and beating the hell out of me. And it was an intense memory and emotion. And what not only am I in and with, so whatever needs to happen, I'm very careful with my words here. I'm not going to tell you what's going to happen when you become more willing to feel what you feel and feel it, because I'm not talking about the going away of emotion. There may be intensity, it's just a difference or potential for difference happens. And I'm feeling it, and it's feeling bad, it's a painful memory. You know what happened with it in this awareness and presence? Oh, I was just about to do that to a cat because of its meowing. It was meowing up the stairs, and at a moment where 2.5 years of difficulty has met this moment, and I'm trying to do this thing. It's extraordinarily important, and there's a lot of pressure on the moment. And I've been interrupted already. It was this crisis point of moment where I felt the way I felt, and I was about to take it out on the cat, who was the straw that broke the camel's back. And the same thing happened to me with my dad, and I've got no idea what was going on for him. I don't. But I know it wasn't just me calling up the stairs, right? Do I need to do I think he was doing his best in that moment? No. I think he could have done better. I think he could have done what I just did, but he didn't have the tools or the awareness. And I've had many moments where I haven't used those tools or had that awareness. Forgiveness becomes a little bit arbitrary. It's just an understanding. And in the visceral feeling of what is there for you, you come to a clarity. And it's that we need to come to. Feeling to meaning. And then there's a completeness. We're not haunted anymore. If you come from feeling to meaning, the haunting doesn't happen, because the haunting of thoughts is trying to drag you to that feeling and the meaning to figure out what the hell you should be doing. But if you go from feeling to meaning in this process and you get clear, wow, the freedom. But of course there's plenty to feel bad about on the journey, like there was for me that day. But I was able to, later that day, be more loving to my daughter and more present with her. And I've been able to be more loving and present to my dad too. I didn't even know I needed to forgive him about that, and I didn't. I just needed to go through a process.
Does the cat get a cuddle as well?
I hate that cat. Just 'cause I didn't shout it doesn't mean I'm gonna like it. Okay guys, let's have a break now. Something I would like us to grasp is that what we are is potential, right? You're not any one thing, you know. There can be nothing so crude as describing someone as one thing. And we're certainly not good or bad. We're a messy mash of the both. But we are potential, okay? Potential, if we want to use these categories, for goodness, potential for badness. Potential to build forward in life, potential to move backwards, potential to create goodness, potential to create balance in our own lives, in ourselves, potential to cultivate good character, potential to cultivate bad character. And as we'll be moving on to in the future days, that transcendent potential is simply a part of us in every breathing moment. And this is really good news to know, because the potential for change is ever present. And if we can take the reins properly on ourselves and life, then that potential to change, we can actually move in the direction of our choosing. So we are this potential, we have this potential, our life has potential, it's not determined. There are many things outside of our control, but we get to very much come in here and change this. So to mean that while the difficulties will always come, how we engage with them and how we meet them will determine what they turn into. And we can definitely do everything about that. Okay. I certainly have misused my potential, my creative potential, and create disasters in my own world historically. I've certainly done that. In more recent periods of time, I've certainly used my creative potential to mitigate the tragedies and create goodness out of them. What are we going to use our potential for? Because you're living it out. You're living out your potential right now. That's what you're doing. Living it out and cultivating it and shaping the world around you with it. And so what we want to explore is, well, what are our options here? So get really clear what we're aiming towards and what we're aiming away from. Okay? So I want to share what Andy said Andy, I really love your honesty, your willingness to actually share, you know, the way you see something or what you're experiencing in the moment. It's very good. And you know what Andy said was that what we're about to do, and it's before he began taking his turn to do it, feels like I'm doing it all the time anyway in my head. Okay. So what I shared with Andy is yes, and that's why it needs expressing. Okay, this is a different thing. These things need expressing, need specificity. Okay, maybe exactly what it needs, because it's normal to be haunted by the negative thinking to varying degrees, and we're going to come on to the solution to negative thinking later in the course. Part of the process fundamentally needs to be giving it voice, you know, expressing it, and getting it in a certain clarity and order. Usually when these things are in your head, like all of our heads, we're in a bit of a wrestle with them because we don't really want them to be there, you know. So getting things into the kind of exercise we just did is a different thing.
Richie, where does writing stuff down come on the spectrum of expression?
I think it's not as potent as verbalizing. That's, you know, when we verbally express, the reason it's so potent is because when you're saying something and honestly, that means you are acknowledging the emotion, not just for yourself, but to the world. That's why you're feeling something, then you start to say it and it gets bigger. Okay, that's why verbal expression is so powerful. Written, you're not, like, generally speaking, you're not going to quite get to that, but it can be helpful. The reason I kind of tread with caution when it comes to written expression is it can far more easily, and it's easy to do anyway, drift into narrative and story and very thoughty. That's really what you're doing. You're visually looking at these words and you're formulating your thoughts into words. You know, there's when you're saying something, it's literally the closest thing to feeling it, right? When you're writing it, you're formulating your feelings into thoughts, into words, right? That's why I think gratitude lists are shit. You know, it's like, how much gratitude are you feeling while you're writing that list? Oh, and I must buy some milk as well. That's what lists are for. Doesn't really work. You know, I'm skipping days, but things like gratitude lists are ways to try and circumnavigate not doing things that we historically did, like prayer. Sitting down and saying grace for your meal before you eat it, you know, actually feeling that gratitude for this food on the table. That food was nice. It's a very different thing in the moment and, you know, more historic traditions. Anyway, okay, so what you've hopefully done there is define what you don't want. Now this is again what's missing from personal development too much is, you know, it's folly of bliss. There's two things wrong with folly of bliss. One, and I'm sure you've all seen and heard the expression folly or bliss. It's an endlessly shared meme because it's like, oh, that's a nice idea, folly or bliss. Joseph Campbell is one that said that. He also said, in fact, what he literally said was, I should have also said follow your blisters, because it needs to be both, right? And the lack of one orientation means you're going to be going in circles. So we wanted to find what we're moving away from. That's very important part of our orientation and our motivation, right? And we've got that. We've got that here. What I'd like us to do together on this is hopefully doesn't take so long, because I want us to to kind of talk about and exchange ideas on what heaven looks like or what the ideal is. Okay, if you were to embody more, and this is the cool thing, this is the good news. If you were to just embody your higher potential more, your life goes in this direction, into betterment, towards an ideal. Okay, so when we are being the best of us, present, aware, connected, being caring and in kinship and kindness to others, being honest, being courageous in moments where it takes, being vulnerable, and not just doing the easy thing, the convenient thing in the moment, but that thing that we know is right. Because at the heart of our thinking is a conscience that is trying to inform us of what we know is right. We embody all of that more, not perfectly, not absolutely, more. Well, in a period of time, we get towards an ideal. What is that ideal? What does life look like? Tom, what does life look like when you're being the best of Tom? When you're, you've been the best of you before, but we're also talking about that extra potential you've not even realised yet, maybe in moments. That Tom, right? What does life look like for that Tom?
Life looks calm and present with my children, and loving and embracing my wife and the kids, seeing that and allowing the kids to be in all of their emotions. We're outside in nature on holiday. A disaster happens and we can laugh. We went to Wales recently and I left the car key 5 miles into a walk, and it was raining, it was getting dark, and I had to use all of the 4D, but I didn't use it as much as I could. And so heaven for me is where that happens, and we can all turn this into this adventure because we've got this trust and understanding and love, and there's not this reactivity where I'm having to shout at the kids to tell them to be quiet while I concentrate on figuring out how I fix the situation. And me and my wife have this understanding, this communication, we get through it together. I feel like I can deal with shit that life's going to throw at me. There's that feeling of strength, not safety. It's just this bond.
Bond, nice.
Yeah.
So bond, communication, connection, joy, lightness, lightheartedness, and being able to engage with life's monumental tragedies, like you have to go back to where the key was and then come back again, right?
Yeah.
In a spirit of freedom.
Or spend £600 on someone to come out as an emergency to
Yeah, do
give
that.
you a new key
Yeah, do that.
and handle it.
Yeah, do that. Yeah, absolutely, do that. And you got your choices: spend that £600 and be really pissed off and ruin everybody's life, or spend that £600 and get on with your life.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Yeah, good. That sounds so much better. I didn't hear what hell sounded like. I'm quite positive that's better.
It's a lot better.
And very possible.
Yeah.
I love that the real world examples you're able to give, and it's what is it mostly about? Of course, relationally. We will have the deepest desire for that. To have good connection, heartfelt connection. Lee, what does that life look like?
I would use many of the same words. Happy, full of laughter, just connected with Daisy and Luca and Nathan, and just bumbling around on adventures, having loads of fun, running away with the circus.
Yeah.
Me and Daisy swinging from our aerial hoop in the garden. Just being together, connected, having fun.
Sounds good. So, Andy, and I'm just going to give it something else for you, right? And that's to, if there's any temptation other than to express this ideal, come back to just expressing it, and express it in rawly, just the words that like these are like happiness, whatever the words are that you want in your ideal and that will be there in your ideal, use those.
I would like to become financially independent and to feel a sense of purpose and wish to jump out of bed and embrace the day, and that I could give off positive energy by around my kids and not cling to things that I can't change, and ideally to have healed my relationship to the point that we can relax around each other and laugh and joke about the kids with no, and that I would be rebuilt my trust so that I could take the kids on holiday and be able to plan stuff. I can't. Yeah, so to be able to plan stuff and look forward to things, as much as embracing the now, the now is all we've got, but I also want to be able to look forward, and that requires some courage and discipline. So
Nice word, Penny.
that's really I've dropped a lot of bad habits, but I want to be able to say that I've embraced a lot more good habits. And to be cliche, thriving, not surviving.
Excellent. Good. Janet.
Can I just start by giving myself a pat on the back, actually, going back to your story? Because I was with a friend and we missed our flight coming home from Malaga in the summer, and I just stayed completely calm about it and went, well, it was our fault, we're just going to have to book another flight. So I'm doing better than I thought. So, yeah, big up me. For me, what I am striving for is to be really just, can you just repeat the thing for me?
What will you have if the ideal, if you're living
What's the ideal? Yeah.
the best of you,
Yeah.
with the added dimension of the highest potential that you haven't even realised yet,
Yeah.
accepting moments, what do you have in your life? What does life look like?
Okay, yeah. So something that I'm really missing at the minute is being able to, and I don't know why, because I try my hardest, is set boundaries within my relationships with other people. People just seem to step over, and I can't keep that in place. So that's really important. And I also want to feel that I'm a complete person that's happy in my own skin by myself after sort of coming out of being in a relationship for 20 years with the same person. it just feels like I'm in this really alien place, but I want to feel that nobody will ever be able to disturb my peace again. I think that's really, really important to me. With regards to my son, I want him to feel that he's got me as a strong parent, a present parent, reliable, safe. Yeah, I think that's the main things that I can think of.
Good.
Yeah.
She's looking at you
Yeah,
like,
this
is he
is-
gonna,
Something
ask
else,
me
I
more
do,
questions? He does that. This is first day. I don't let him loose properly until later. Okay, listen. Okay, what we're gonna do, because we're gonna finish. I want to thank you for today. I love these days where we navigate to the needs of the group and what we've been doing. And adjust, and what you guys have brought has created this. It's co-creation. That's and we're very happy with what we've been able to do with you guys today, day one. What we'd like to do is we'd like to buddy guys up to be able to have a weekly call, okay? And it's going to be for this expression that we've been talking about, okay? And all we'd like you to do is once a week is have a 20-minute call. We want each person gets 10 minutes to express. And this is about simply what is most, good, bad, the ugly. What is most? What is it you have to say that's got the emotional charge from that week in this moment? What is it you have to say? Okay? And in much the similar way, the other person to listen and hold that space while you get to do that. And we get to do that for each other. And it's an incredible gift. You know, having it in David when I was going through my worst times was, you know, just fundamental for me, and it is for most people that actually come out of these times. But just having it, whatever your times are, good, bad, whatever. You want to share the good too. That feels good. But, you know, when you feel that where you get to express the bad fully and completely, that is, you know, crucial for us. Things to move. So we're going to do that, okay? We have you guys and you guys, okay? We'll see how things go after the next day we have. So we're going to make sure that you guys are connected, and you can have that. You can check in and arrange when that is. A week from today would be great, but approximately whenever it works for you. And just to be disciplined in this way, I've got 10 minutes, okay? And I'm going to 10 minutes. So we want to go raw and real. Expression, what's it you said? Express over explain. That's it. Express over explain. Get to the heart of things. Sharing how you feel. Okay? What's happened, how you feel about it. And the expression of things is the most important thing. What do your emotions need to say about it? Right?
And
Okay.
it's very important that you're not trying to make the other person understand your situation.
Mm-hmm.
They don't need to understand the context, nothing. It's not about them at all. They are being a human being, being there for a strong, caring presence while you express. It's all about you expressing that. It's really important. It's your chance to get everything out, everything you got off your chest. Good, like I said, good, bad, or ugly. And it can be challenging at first, of course, because there's you're uncertain. You kind of like restrict and hold back because you're maybe scared or uncertain. You haven't yet developed the bonds yet. But we do encourage you to challenge yourself, to express yourself, you know, like really go for it. Because if you do it and you do it in that moment, the next time you're with your child, the next time you're with someone that matters, you may not react in the way that you have before. Because you've let out that energy, even if it's not fully, you haven't fully transmuted, but you've at least let some of it out. It's immense as to what that can do. So we do encourage you to really make the most of it. And of course, part of that will be that when one of you is finished, so your 10 minutes is up, have a timer, just to make it very clear, you don't immediately swap. You need moments of like a couple of minutes probably to just that person to feel, and you've just heard this stuff, right? You may have some things you're feeling, allow yourself to feel, feel your body, feel your emotions, and then when you're ready, swap. Yeah.
Great. The David many years ago began talking about this idea that you limit the good you have in your world, what you can experience in it emotionally, by limiting the bad you're willing to feel. It's an extraordinarily good observation. It's you basically create your normal, your kind of range, and it's kind of equalises both ways in a sense. So if you're not, what it means is, if you're not willing to go to the bad, you're limiting your range of the good. Okay? Remember, it's very different having a swirl of negative thinking and returning to the narrative of things, and whatever emotions we challenge with, it's very different to getting very precise in the expression of our emotions. As I said before, what is it the emotion is saying? Give voice to the emotion. It's a very different thing.
And just one more thing, it doesn't always make sense either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might sound like nonsense.
No, that's right. In fact, there's certain processes. For example, this is as a companion to having this time together. What I'd like to do on a daily basis, increasingly between now and our next time together, or your coaching session with David online, is, well, one, start really paying attention to what is really meaningful to you, and to living that out more, and that includes more honest expression. Again, we're not talking about criticising people around us, we're talking about just expressing ourselves more honestly. So connecting to what is most meaningful, paying attention. If you go away from a conversation and realise, oh, what I said there was a holding back of actually what I really think about that thing, and actually, I don't like the fact that I joined in with that really negative narrative, or that really gossipy, critical narrative. I'm not actually living out what is most meaningful in these moments. Correct. Look to do it in the next connectional moment. Okay. This liberates us to have the connections we're kind of talking about. I can't tell you while I'm going through what I'm going through. I go for a walk every day, about an hour. Every single time without fail, I connect with other people. I'm walking along the brook here, and I have magic interactions. Just because I'm liberated in that way to be able to have those moments, and they feel amazing. I feel it's some of the best I ever feel is simply connecting with strangers and having a moment of passing the time in whatever way. So we have that. We have our budding up. We have awareness of meaning and being more authentic to our meaning in how we act, how we behave, what we say. The beginning of our transmutational journey is the deeper acknowledgement of how we feel. Okay? So what we want to be able to do, day to day, something's happening, stressing you out, or you're anxious about something, afraid, down, whatever it is acknowledge for yourself. These are the words, I feel, and then let the next words come, which we'll describe, which are the emotion speaking. Okay? I feel, and allow that word to come. I'd like to do this verbally, so when you're on your own, that's day to be able to do this. This is when you become aware of troublesome emotion.
I was just going to say, there's a distinction between when I feel angry and what I am angry.
I'd like to go I feel, it's a good question. I'll be coming to I ams later actually, but I'd like to begin here. I'll go into details about that on the second day, but good question. I feel angry. Okay, and whatever it is, and then you repeat. Don't just do it once. I feel, let the word come. I feel, let the word come. Again, words might not make all the sense in the world, because when emotions are speaking, they're connected to goodness knows what. Just allow that word to come, but really allow yourself to honestly express the word that's coming from that emotion. Okay, remembering the degrees of transmutation and change come from the degrees of honest expression. I feel, let that come. So whatever it is you're feeling that's troublesome, difficult day to day, I feel, and acknowledge that. Okay, we want to focus on that, but also just to allow yourself that moment, a gratitude moment as well. I feel, and allow that to come too, whatever that good feeling is, and acknowledge that, right, when it comes. Okay. This is the beginning of a journey, but that beginning, that I feel, it's the equivalent to an elite athletes need to stretch. They had to stretch day one of their first day of training as a novice. They have to stretch before they're about to run the Olympic 100-meter gold. Okay, this I feel is maybe the first step, but it's also fundamental on every level. It's so profoundly transformative. Okay. My goodness, we made it 4 o'clock.
Good job.
And I know you basically, David's work with you in a couple of weeks will be a continuation of what we've been doing this second session. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
being here, man.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hugs?
Us? We hug already?
Of course.
Hello.
Line
Hugs.
up.
Hugs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're doing this together.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to meet
I
you.
had a message from Joe at lunch and she
Did you?
said, say hi.
Say hi back.